Yeah, where is it?
It's over here. Follow me.
Are we alive?
We are.
Okay, hi everybody, this is David Sereda from davidsereda.co. Very exciting subject tonight. I think you're going to love this. And you can always hit the replay if you miss it. So tonight I'm going to show you the connection to human brain waves and magnetic wave transmitter of brainwave equivalent frequencies and healing music. It's really amazing how this works. And in fact, in front of me is a study done by PhDs, alpha to theta neurotherapy and neurobehavioral treatment of addictions, mood disorders, and trauma. And this is amazing to think about because when you're going to transmit electromagnetic frequencies that are equivalent of brain waves, no speaker or headphones can do it. They can't do it. And I'm going to kind of demonstrate it to you here. You're going to have a live demonstration. And here I have an article from MIT, engineering.mit.edu, and it says, can brainwaves interfere with radio waves, meaning radio station waves? And the thesis is not likely, but that actually isn't true, because brain waves are actually electromagnetic waves, not unlike visible light, X-rays, and gamma rays. It's just that they operate in a very, very low and very weak amplitude frequency. But that means part of a low frequency wave can cross and actually receive energy from a higher frequency wave source. So the very fact that our brains are electromagnetic means that our brains have an energy field that radiates beyond the head into the space medium, the space environment. So we are acting as transmitters, albeit very weak individually, but when our brains become coherent and focused, they're actually very powerful over great distances. So that somehow can possibly explain telepathy and even faster than light instantaneous signaling between entangled or bonded humans, mammals, and animals, and all living things. So, I mean, from this article from MIT, radio waves and brain waves are both forms of electromagnetic radiation, waves of energy that travel at the speed of light. The difference between brain waves, radio waves, and other electromagnetic waves, such as visible light, X-rays, and gamma rays, lies in their frequency. That is how often waves peak through and trail through in a second. So the waves peak and the trail is the bottom. Radio waves, which include radio and other wireless transmission signals, as well as other natural signals in the same frequency, peak and travel at between 50 and 1,000 megahertz. 1,000 megahertz is a gigahertz. That's between 50 million and 1 billion oscillations per second. The human brain also emits wave, like when a person focuses their attention or remembers something. This activity fires thousands of neurons simultaneously at the same frequency, generating a wave, but at a rate closer to 10 to 100 cycles per second. Actually, brain waves go way lower than 10, and I'll demonstrate that in a minute. Interference happens when two waves of the same or similar frequencies bump into each other. And there's actually constructive and destructive interference, by the way. This might happen when signals from two radio stations, both broadcasting at 89.7 megahertz from different cities, bump into one another. The shape of the waves changes linearly. They add and to and subtract from one another, says Dimitrios Panazis, director of magnetoencephalography laboratory at MIT's McGovern Institute. As a result, song becomes static. So let's go to human brain waves for a second. because this study done by PhDs and THDs on transmitting, you would have to transmit harmonic signals into somebody's brain at very low frequencies, again, which a speaker cannot do. But I'm going to demonstrate how my cube here can easily do that. So first, I'm going to show you what a magnetic wave piece of music is like. So I'm going to turn on my amp over here, turn on my speaker, and I'm going to play some music. And you can actually hear this. But there's one difference. I'm transmitting through my coil and my speakers. And my coil, my meter here, will show as I get closer, I've got a full signal coming off my coil, which my speaker can't do, because so I'm transmitting this music magnetically into my space and measuring my field. I'm going to turn the speaker off now, but I'm leaving my coil on, and you can see on my meter, it's highly, highly active coming off. So the music is coming silently, magnetically into the room. And a magnetic wave is so much deeper than a sound wave, because a sound wave is just a pressure wave pushing air. But a magnetic wave will go right through the wall. It'll go through steel, glass. It travels at the speed of light, and it will actually cause vibrations in your actual bones and your sodium and all the crystals in your body. And what is amazing about that is that magnetic wave therapy, playing music that's tuned to harmonic frequencies such as 432 middle A, etc., because there's a lot of etc., is far more therapeutic in value than if you're just doing sound healing with really, really beautiful music without the use of a magnetic wave transmitter. And this one was handmade by myself, and it took a couple of weeks to actually make it. So I'm still playing this magnetic music, and what's amazing about the potential of this is for electronic DJs and sound healers with sound healing therapy centers, is your clients, and therefore your audience, is going to get a far deeper transmission of the frequencies embedded in the music than you get with sound. In fact, far, far deeper, because we are photosynthetic beings, meaning frequencies, which are all part of invisible and visible light spectrum energies, transfer energy to our cells, to our atoms, and give us energy. Now, a sound wave might stimulate you emotionally. It might make you feel something emotionally, but it's actually transferring far less energy to you than a magnetic wave at the same time as the sound wave, which I just demonstrated. Now, another thing I'm going to demonstrate here, I'm going to turn this music off, and I'm going to go to my frequency generator, and I'm going to put two frequencies in here, 1 hertz and 3 hertz. And what's going to blow your mind here is that no speaker on earth can put out 1 hertz. And in fact, most people think your amp, and I'm using a good Yamaha amp, won't put out 1 hertz. But I'm going to prove that all wrong here in a second. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to push on. So I'm now transmitting 1 hertz, and we can see my coil is highly active. And the meter is jumping around because 1 hertz is very slow. 1/1000, 2/1000. So it's 1 wave per second is actually transmitting. Now I'm going to turn it off and try 3 hertz. And 3 hertz is much faster. So I don't see the needle jumping around, but I see a huge field. And believe me, it goes 30 feet across the room. Now, why that's important in proving this is that if we're going to do therapy, as per this PhD study, on alpha, which means the lowest frequency brainwave state, is actually delta. And why they say alpha to theta is beyond me, because most speakers won't put out alpha to theta frequencies. So you can't induce healing frequencies of that type using sound waves. You can through the galvanic skin response. But for example, delta, which is deep dreamless sleep, is 0 to 4 hertz. So I just showed you 1 hertz and I showed you 3 hertz, which are both within the delta part of the brain. And I've had my brain waves mapped in meditation, and I was very, very in control of my delta waves, which is actually extremely rare. Delta waves are very powerful because low frequency waves actually have a huge wavelength. For example, our planet Earth actually puts out a series of Tesla Schumann resonances that range between 7.83 hertz fundamental, which fits into the next category, which is theta brainwaves. And theta is where we dream. In fact, the rapid eye movement of the dream cycle, when we're in our deep dreaming state and you see the closed eyes of a person darting around, it means they're having a visual dreaming experience. So we tend to dream within the range of the Tesla Schumann resonances, or the frequency of Earth. And my coil here will easily put that out. So I'll type in right now 7.83 hertz, which is the fundamental Schumann resonance. You can see it on, maybe, I don't know if you can see that, it's so bright. So I'm going to hit play, and we're going to check on my meter here. And sure enough, my coil is putting out 738, and I can measure this all the way across the room with my meter. In fact, you can even see it from here, because we're very close to the coil, that I'm putting out that frequency. Now, you can't hear it, but it's there. Humans don't cognitively generally start hearing sound until we reach 20 hertz. Now, if we go to the next brainwave category, which is alpha, which is the part of the brain when we're in high focus thinking or high focused intention, we'll see very good peaks in the alpha brainwave series, which is 8 to 13 hertz. Now, speakers do not put out 8 to 13 hertz, so we can't even do induce the theta part of the human brain, 4 to 8 hertz, and we can't induce the alpha either, which is 8 to 13 hertz. The only speakers I know that can put out 13 hertz are going to cost you at least $50,000. And so there are speakers that will do it. There are good headphones that you might hear 13 hertz. It depends how sensitive you are, but that's the upper part of alpha. Now, I'm going to put in 13 hertz here and transmit it through my coil. And sure enough, we got a huge signal. It's massive. You can see it on my meter is fully active. And I'm coming off the coil. So that means, remember, the MIT study says the brain waves are electromagnetic, which means they can transmit, but they can also receive electromagnetic frequencies. And receiving frequencies through music or any mode of transmission has an effect on the human nervous system and brain. So this study done by Nancy E. White, PhD, and Leonard M. Richards, THD, was on introduction to quantitative EEG and neurofeedback in 2009, alpha to theta neurotherapy, and the neurobehavior treatments of addictions, mood disorders, and trauma. And so why would, if I gave an abject or meaningless number that has no basis in reality, frequency, which a lot of companies do. I see a lot of companies out there have mats that will give you a frequency of like 4 hertz. Well, it doesn't mean anything, because why would I want to tune my nervous system to 4 hertz? It's not part of any music scale that I've ever heard of. And so what I do is I developed a series of what's called golden ratio brainwave frequencies that actually are meaningful, that fit within the categories of the 5 major brainwave categories. Because the next part of the brain is the gamma part of the brain, and the gamma part of the brain goes above alpha, it goes above 13 hertz. And it actually, depending on who you're talking to and who did the studies, it can go as high as 200 hertz. And that's not high. This is all very low frequency. So the brain is a very low frequency transmitter, albeit it's electromagnetic. Now, the heart is even lower, because the heart at rest is at or near 60 beats a minute, which is 1 beat per second. So it has a frequency of 1, which puts it at, when it's at rest, at deep delta. And so when you go into meditation and you shift your head space into your heart space, and when your heart is at rest, you're really slowing the brain down. And when you slow the brain down, you actually go into these natural rhythms that are very, very sensitive, that are in the natural environment. You tune into the earth frequencies, you tune into cosmic frequencies, and you start to have a deeper experience of reality, because you're starting to tune into a much more natural rhythm. Now, everything else in our scientific world, in all of our electromagnetic devices, the internet, cell phones, are operating in the billions of waves per second. So these billion waves per second waves seem to, and this goes back to this article on the MIT School of Engineering, can brainwaves interfere with radio waves? It should be the other way around. Can radio waves interfere with brainwaves? In fact, there are many people that are so sensitive to the microwave towers transmitting all of these microwaves into everybody's cell phones that their nervous systems get so rattled, they lose the ability to sleep. Again, it's very hard when you're transmitting huge amounts of energy electromagnetically to allow the brain to relax and go into its theta and delta cycle, where the heart really goes into deep rest and the brain goes into deep rest, and we get our sleep. Now, sleep deprivation studies show that the damage to the human brain and nervous system when a person can't sleep is very, very dangerous to our health. I have found with many of my clients, giving them either through my coil beds or my coils or my wands or the cubes, if you give them really tuned deep frequencies, they have the best sleep they've ever had in their life. And that's because their nervous system is not tuned. Just like an instrument has to be tuned, the nervous system has to be tuned. And some people find the beauty of therapeutic spa type music. And what I did is I went on iTunes, and I just found spa music, which again, I can turn my speakers back on and play. And you see that really deep, relaxing music is now going out at the speed of light, spinning through these coils at 3/4 of the speed of light, creating a vortex of light. And I'm enveloped not only in the music, but I'm enveloped in a vortex of light that is set to music. So the vortex of light, that's, if you could see what was coming off of this, you would see what looks like a spiral of light in the Milky Way galaxy filling this whole house. And that is actually happening. It's not theoretical, because I can measure it with my meter. And I know the speed of electromagnetic energy in copper is approximately 2/3 the speed of light, 3/4 the speed of light. And therefore I scientifically can calculate exactly what is happening in the invisible, that I'm creating a beautiful harmonic swirl of light energy in my house. Now, that's far more desirable than, because I get this question from people all the time who say, well, I don't really need anything, I'm fine. And meanwhile, you are, whether you like it or not, if you live in a city, you are being bombarded by microwaves. All you have to do is go to trifil.com and get one of these and turn it all the way to the radio frequency mode. And I don't have any radio frequencies in my house, much to speak of, very, very tiny, because there's only one Wi-Fi transmitter in my house, which is miles away from any city. Now, when you walk around, and I've done this, any small town to any big city, the signal is loaded in the radio frequency spectrum. And those are your microwaves, and they are sitting on top of your brain waves. And yes, they are interfering, because when two waves cross each other's path at the speed of light, they share not only energy, they share information. And if the information is chaotic, well, then your system gets chaotic. And so it can likely affect mood and mental health. Absolutely. And I think there's more and more studies that actually prove that. Now, it's true, one of the difficult things about perception is that one person could be negatively affected by that while another appears on the surface to be doing fine. But good studies in electromagnetism and brainwaves prove that while all subjects are receiving the electromagnetic interference, not all of them are going to break down at the same rate. In other words, one person might become mentally disturbed or lose the ability to sleep very well, and another one will sleep perfectly fine. But you have to wait over time, over long periods of time. Eventually, the data starts to become more uniform. So what I tell people is that the benefits of nicely tuned music can be greatly improved by transmitting the music both through your sound and magnetic wave. And the beauty of the magnetic wave is you can embed in music these really, really low frequencies that are true harmonies to these different brainwave categories and tune them, as in the study that I just mentioned, where you see real results from inducing nice harmonies at these very, very low rates, again, which nobody's speakers can put out. There's no speaker on earth that can do what this can do, which is why these things are so beneficial with us living in an electronic world. So with that, if anybody has any questions, otherwise, 432 hertz is as a carrier wave. That's actually 432 hertz would be a very low frequency, but 432 megahertz, million hertz, would make a carrier wave, to answer Mike's question. So yeah.
Is your pulse static frequency acting as carrier for the music?
Sorry, what?
Is your pulse static frequency acting as carrier for the music?
No. It's not a carrier wave. I'm playing it directly through the magnetic coil, not as a carrier. No. So a carrier wave would be very high frequency, most likely, and that's what radio stations do. So when you use a carrier wave, you can't receive it unless you're tuned to the carrier wave. But with a magnetic wave, your whole nervous system is receiving it. So that's the difference. Now, in In very good speakers and good headphones, there's a tremendously weak magnetic wave. It's very weak. I've measured it. It's not really very noticeable. And the other thing is with a big coil like this, you can receive your healing music magnetically very safely. There's no feeling of irritation. But what we know about magnetic wave transference is, one, it affects water really nicely. We're made of about 87% water. The magnetic wave will transfer the harmony in the music or just the bare frequencies, because you can put bare harmonic frequency notes either embedded in the music, or you can just transmit them through, like what I'm using in my phone here is a tone generator, which is, I'm using a binaural tone generator, so I can put two binaural frequencies at the same time through this, and in the left and right, because the top coil is left and the bottom coil is right, or vice versa if you flip it. So because the brain is two hemispheres, it's a binaural transmitter receiver. It can receive very nicely the binaural beat frequency. So there are numerous very beneficial designed binaural frequencies. Like when I did Robert Monroe's program way back in the late 80s, early 90s, he was playing binaural frequencies with really cheap headphones through cassette tapes, and the tones were not very pure. Now, when you transmit binaural frequencies that are magnetic into the brain, you have thousands of times deeper penetration of the binaurals than you do with regular audio. So yeah, I mean, there's many other music scales other than 432. I mean, 432 middle A, there's also the solfeggio scale. There's the Great Pyramid music scale, which I decoded 15 years ago. And so many of my people are using Great Pyramid frequency scale. There's also our music scale. There's so many different music scales that have a basis in nature and reality from many cultures around the world. And the beauty of those, again, is you can put them into a keyboard. You can plug your keyboard into your amp, and you connect your amp to the cube or any of my coil systems, including my therapeutic beds and wands, and then away you go. You can sit there and play magnetic music into a person's body during a healing session. And actually, sometimes I get people who are practitioners who do regression, like therapeutic regression, which means regressing a person back to a trauma. And when you take them back to their trauma and then you play soothing therapeutic frequencies, you can help them release and retune the energy around that trauma so that the trauma no longer has a chaotic vibration in their nervous system, and it helps them to release it very smoothly. There are people that even do past life work with my coil systems, again, regressing a person back, putting them into deep frequency states that allow them to go into deeper levels of memory. So we have memory in our physical body from this lifetime, but there are people who believe we have memory from previous and past lifetimes that is beyond the cellular memory, and that you can access that kind of memory when you get into accessing a person's energy field rather than their physiology. So there's a lot of ways to use systems like this, but I'd really like to see some of the electronic DJs and the sound healing centers get tuned to this idea of using my systems in their space, because not all people just want to use frequencies as numbers. There's a lot of people that can relate deeper to healing based music, but then how you're transmitting that healing based music, what I'm saying is no speaker on earth can most speakers start at around 35, 38 to 40 hertz. That's their bottom end. That's way above all the healing brainwave frequencies. It's way above, delta, theta, and alpha, right? It's way up there. So the speaker isn't even starting where the healing response occurs. It's too high. And headphones are, most headphones that are good are starting at around 20 hertz, but it's better. That's better than most speakers. But if you want to spend $50,000 and up, I can point you to some speakers that start at about 13 hertz. But again, you can take really good speakers and all you got to do on your amp over here. So if you've got a good amp and a tuner, you'll see that most good amps have quadraphonic sound outputs. So they'll have speaker A left and right and speaker B left and right. So that's what I'm doing. So when I play the music here, I'm using speaker A left and right is where the music is coming from, and my coil left and right, because there's left and right coils, is speaker B. So you see, I got music, I got nice bass in here, and I got my magnetic wave at the same time. So my magnetic wave, as I demonstrated, can transmit 1 hertz. Now let's see if I can transmit 0.5 hertz. That would be amazing if my amp can put out a signal at 0.5. So I'm going to try it. And sure enough, it is. It's very jumpy because that's very slow. So my signal generator can put out 0.5 hertz. That's incredible. That's incredible. You have no idea how deep that is. Like, that's a huge wavelength. It's a 0.5 hertz is a very deeply relaxing, super slowed down wave. So it can really put a person into deep delta, 0.5. And I can take my smoothie and I can put it next to the coil. And because it's water-based, it will receive that healing frequency music, restructure, and through photosynthesis, it will revitalize my smoothie. Now, I've done this for years where I'll make a super smoothie, and I put a lot of stuff in my super smoothies. I even put a whole rose because roses are edible in my smoothies with strawberries. And then I will pulse my smoothie with frequencies, and I will notice that I'll feel way more vibrations that day than if I make the same smoothie and I don't pulse it with frequencies. And I thought, why is that? And I've done this double blind so many times. And I can put the best stuff in my smoothies. Like I put so many things in my smoothies, collagen, protein, a lot of different herbs and plants, and milk thistle, again, the rose, hemp oil, some oats, and coconut milk or something like that, or just regular milk. And I'll blend my smoothie up. And again, I won't see, when you understand that plants and food, we're all photosynthetic beings, right? We all receive energy from the sun. And of course, the sun is frequencies. So when you give beautiful music to your smoothie magnetically, a sound wave will give it a minimal response compared to a magnetic wave. So I can take all my crystals off the top here and put my smoothie pitcher there, pulse it for only 3 to 5 minutes, and then have my whole family drink it. I can see the difference in my kids that day versus if I don't do it. They can't tell, but I can watch them and I can see it. I can see it when I play frequencies in the house, and then I won't play anything for a week. I can see the difference in the mood in the whole house. And yet you can't hear it, right? You can't hear that right now. I'm transmitting this really low frequency right now. But what am I transmitting right now? Music. I'm doing the music right now. So that means that I'm going to turn it off. That means when you understand how things work, you understand why things work. Why is it good to pulse your smoothie or your solid? Because that's how it grew in the first place. Photosynthesis. Not only is the sun transmitting frequencies in the form of light, but it's also pulsing magnetic waves, which NASA recorded, which is called the sound of the sun. Any idea how long the frequencies last once you imprint them into your food? Well, see, again, a magnetic wave, we found that it can stay in the bones because we've measured people's auras before and after magnetic wave versus before and after sound wave. And before and after sound wave, within 30 minutes, most of the improvement is gone. Magnetic wave, we can see it 3 days later. These were deep studies we did years ago, using the GDV aura camera system. So again, because your bones and your sodium in your blood are real electrolyte crystals, crystals will benefit from magnetic wave for many, many days. But I found a way, which is scalar level 4 technology, to embed frequencies into stone and crystal and even metals. And that's what my pendants are about. You can see at davidsereda.co, people have been buying these pendants for almost 20 years now. I never take mine off. I wear this all the time. I sleep with it, shower with it, and it touches my skin. We've measured people's auras before and after wearing the pendants, and the difference is incredible. So yeah, see, when somebody said, see, you can feel it through the internet. Why? If I transmit a magnetic wave through the internet, the internet is electromagnetic. So if I could get a gathering of a couple hundred people here, I could give you I know 2 incredible binaural beats. I could give a whole lecture on these 2 binaural numbers, which I call resurrection frequencies. And everyone who's watching, because my microphone is electromagnetic and my camera, the frequencies will go through the internet from the coil. So that means everybody can receive it. And even on the replay, it won't be as strong on the replay, but it's there. It's amazing, like what you can see in data on old recordings of music that were, if you can get a hold of near original recordings from the 1970s, like if I could play Supertramp, an original recording, you can feel the energies and you can see it in the magnetic tape and the magnetic track, that there are magnetic waves that the speaker systems won't put out that are embedded in those tracks. And you can transmit those. It actually helps you go back in time. Like when I hear Supertramp, I'll go back to the 1970s. If I hear Pink Floyd, same thing. The Beatles, it might take me back a little bit further. So what I'm saying is the benefits of magnetic wave therapy music are far deeper than sound. Now, people have asked me about live music. So live music is a whole other thing, because really good strings are vibrating in more than just 2 dimensions. So when you pluck a guitar string, it doesn't just go up and down. It's actually kind of going like this. It has a chiral spiral vibration to it. And so it's really holographic, so really, really good microphones picking up that holographic information. I think when you're recording music, you're not just getting the instruments, you're getting the magnetic properties of the earth, the position of the earth in the solar system, and the position of the solar system in the Milky Way galaxy. And we're in a different position of the Milky Way galaxy every single day. It takes over 250 million years for our solar system to orbit the Milky Way galaxy once. So we're in a new part of the galaxy every single day. So when I listen to really old recordings, really old music, there's qualities in there that I can feel that when I listen to today's music, it's a different vibe. And the way they recorded music back in those days was, I think, much more pure. I think LPs are much more pure than digital information. But again, I think I could improve the sound world tremendously by marrying my technology with a really good speaker, because then I mean, right, you don't really have to do that now, because you can just pair one of my coil systems. It doesn't, you can either get a single coil, but a single coil is not stereo. This is stereo because there's two coils here. They're not touching in the middle. They're counter rotating into each other. So you could either have two of my single coils, left and right, or you can get a cube. And this thing will last you 100 years, by the way. So, I mean, I really good speakers. You know, my dad got the best stereo way back in the 70s. He spent a lot of money on the stereo. All the kids in the neighborhood would come over to listen to music at our house, listen to Pink Floyd, listen to Supertramp. And when you hear good music on good speakers with good amps, it gives you a whole other experience. But now, if we added, it's really funny. I can tell you a funny story. When I was living in Sedona, I got this meeting with Prince's personal assistant, and I met her at this huge hotel. And Prince was still alive at the time, just before he died. And I was trying to get Prince tuned into my discovery of the Great Pyramid music scale. For some reason, I was supposed to meet Prince. And darn, he died. I mean, his assistant was so excited about him and I meeting, he died just after that of the overdose. And it felt like, you know, destiny was trying to bring me and Prince together. I also knew his girlfriend from the movie Purple Rain. I'm just trying to remember her. Apollonia. I had lunch with her many times in Los Angeles, but I wasn't on to this stuff yet back then. And then I met another music producer who came up to meet me in person in Canada when we moved to Canada. And he was working with huge bands, and he was really clued in for a while, but then he lost focus. So I think it's eventually going to be destiny that I meet with somebody powerful. If anybody knows anybody in the music industry, to marry this magnetic wave transference technology with regular sound, because then we can take people to another level, right? Like when music has taken human beings to higher emotional levels and deeper, given them qualities and nuances in the presentation and the feeling of music. Like I remember when trance music, and everybody was going to Ibiza to dance for weeks on end to this electronica, super incredible psychedelic music. And if they had understood what I'm doing, and you could transmit that electronica music, which I do in my house with my kids, and they go crazy, jumping and dancing and running up and down on the bed, flying in the air. They're taking in the same music of somebody like Paul Oakenfold and those people. They're taking it in magnetically at the same time as sound. And again, the magnetic waves, see, the magnetic waves are in nature, right? The Tesla-Schumann resonance is a magnetic wave. Brain waves are electromagnetic waves. Sun waves are electromagnetic waves. The waves coming off of the 9 planets and all the stars in the constellation are electromagnetic waves. But sound, the way we produce sound is pressure. We're just moving that cone back and forth. You have a passive cone in your speaker and an active cone, and then you have your tweeters for your high frequencies, and they're just pushing air. And that is not how nature makes sound. Nature makes sound magnetically, electromagnetically and magnetically. And so that's why I'm doing this. I'm trying to take people to another level first by giving them the experience of how frequencies can expand their consciousness. And now it's like how to put frequencies in music. See, when recording artists are recording their music, they know that the speaker isn't going to put out below 35 hertz. So why are they going to give you sound below 35 hertz? Well, they actually are, because when they pluck that string, when David Gilmour plucks that string, when John Lennon, and Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr and the Beatles, when they're playing their instruments, there are qualities and nuances that are ultra low, and your microphone is picking it up, but the speaker won't put it out. But I just proved to you with my meter that I can put out lower than 1 hertz. There's no speaker on earth that can do that. Nobody. And, Bowkers and Wilkins, which I have over here, but mine are only $2,000, and Bowkers and Wilkins go up to over $100,000. They can give you 13 hertz, but you got to pay to get that 13 hertz. A lot of money. These don't cost that much. I can go lower than 13 hertz, and these don't cost anywhere near that much. So is it worth it? I mean, you decide for yourself, and is it worth it? I think it is, because you'll see, even in those old Supertramp and Beatles recordings, there are some really low nuances that can really smooth your heart, can really make you have feelings that you've never known before. Even a really good sound system can give you some feelings that you haven't known before. Like, for a family to invest in a good stereo system and watch your kids and your family grow up to really good sound, you don't see it much anymore. You don't see the stereo stores in the cities like you used to, where you'd walk in and you'd hear these incredible speakers, and you have an experience of incredible sound. There's not many people doing it anymore. They're just buying little desktop speakers or putting on their headphones, and away they go. So I'd like to see, I have worked recently with an award-winning electronic DJ. He knows about my work and my frequencies, and we've had this conversation, although he's not in that industry much anymore because people have moved away from it. But all it's going to take is me to connect with the right musicians and get them to understand this, and I think their audience will have a way deeper experience. And the sound healers, I'm putting out this call to you, all the sound healing boutiques out there, all the sound healing boutique spas who are playing sound healing music in the salt caves. Again, sodium is a crystal, which means if I transmit this into a salt cave, the salt is going to start to emit an aura of real energy that it wouldn't be able to do just inducing sound waves upon it. So anyway, thank you everybody for being here. If you have any more questions, just go to davidsereda.co. My website is down to the left of my name, right over here, right there. And
to the right.
Oh, and also to the right. So yeah. So have a great night, and see you next time.